Something fishy's going on here. Welcome back, everybody. How are you? It's good to see you. It's good to be seen by you. And as you might be able to tell from the, how shall we say, different perspective, I got a new camera lens. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of it. Do you like it? I hope you like it. It wasn't a huge expense. It was actually less than you would probably pay for a couple of meals at McDonald's, but I wanted to be able to kind of take in things a little bit from a different perspective, a different angle, and so I did that. And I hope you guys like it. It's going to be coupled with a few other interesting changes around here. But yeah, this is all new, a new look. And Kabuki says, looks good. That's good to know. We've got a fun night tonight, actually. Kyle is here. He is back, and he's going to be actually unboxing for us tonight. It's rare that Kyle actually gets a chance to do an unboxing, but that's going to happen. And what's he's going to be unboxing? Well, that is going to entail the other cool thing, because we've got Bill from Paint Minis Live is going to jump in a little bit, because Kyle has got minis from Paint Minis Live that he's dying to show off. And I said to Bill, you should come on and tell us about your praxis. And so he's going to do that. Gumby, it's a little dark at the edges because you're taking in places that you couldn't normally see. And my studio lights are pointing towards the middle, not out at the edges. But things will evolve, and, full set lighting. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Some full set lighting we'll have to get now that I've got this. So, it's just, the lens was only like $17. Oh, but you need an adapter, and that was $5. Well, the lens looks off. The lens gives you great views. Except you also now need full set lighting. So we'll have to look at that. So one little thing before we get going, though, I occasionally I'll do shout outs to friends, family, friends of the show, that sort of thing, and tell you straight up, I don't know if the person I'm going to give the shout out to is an actual fan of the show. But I'm a fan of hers. Tonight's shout out goes to my sister-in-law, Christina, who is, and this is an oft overused comment, for lack of a better term. When people say, oh, well, they're starting a new chapter, and they're like, this is a whole new volume for her in all the most positive ways. So, Christina, I love you. I wish you the absolute best of luck in what you're going to be doing in the future. And as I said on the Facebook post, snow globe for Colleen, Rosemary, and Charlotte, and I would like a shot glass, please, from your travels. So God bless you and good luck. So, with that said, we are going to jump into this, and let's go. I'm gonna don my headphones here, and we're gonna bring Kyle into the mix. Kyle, I hope you're there. I see the minis. So, hello, Kyle. How are you? He might be away, or he might not be able to hear us. What if I do that? Oh, that's kind of an awesome look. I can do that. But then that makes the minis look like crap. Kyle. He's there. John Stewart Keller, how are you? Greetings to you. Hey, there he is. There's that Kyle.
Yeah, I just realized I was so intent on arranging things to the camera so you could see the figurines and stuff that I'd forgotten to bring the power cord for my laptop. It would have been conking out in about half an hour.
Oh, well, we can't have that. We absolutely can't have that. So there they are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm actually gonna zoom these in a little bit, Kyle. And if you wanna kind of recenter those a tad, because I think it's
I'll do my best.
First one, yeah.
This is not really a camera for miniatures. I'm not set up for all this. Just as I'm not good with painting and all the rest, I'm not good with displaying. But these arrived courtesy of the wonderfully generous Bill T. We got a Bill S, now Bill T. We need a Bill U, V, W, Y, X.
Yes, we're slowly building the whole Bill library.
It reminds me, I was talking to my physio online on Facebook, and I saw his name's Aiden Rich, and he's friends with about 6 people called Aiden Rich. He obviously just collects them.
Yeah.
I'm sure there must be a group out there for all the John Smiths or something. But anyway.
Yeah, so, something like that. So those are absolutely wonderful. Are those resin or are those metal?
They're resin.
Okay.
Oh no. Yeah. They're well, Bill S will be able to. Bill T will be able to tell us.
Yeah, Bill S is here now. So let me ask you, co-host, what do you think of the new wide-angle lens I'm rocking?
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. You can have
in-studio guests.
Yeah, I hope so someday. I mean, the missus dips back here sometimes, but they make them for webcams, Kyle. They make wide-angle lenses for webcams. We ought to get you one so you can have a full gymnasium view. We can take it in all of its glory.
You should probably get your Gods and Monsters friends to come and visit your studio one day.
I'd love to have Todd and Anna on the show. I have asked them repeatedly, and they're like, "Oh, maybe." Hey, guys, Todd, Anna, if you're out there, you're just across town. Just come over. It'd be awesome. I'll make you cheesecake. Bob Jester says, people at my house keep calling me Bill. My name is Bob. So we have a Billy and Willie in your extended family, and it's never an insult when someone mistakes you for a Bill. Do streams with there you go. PJLS says, do streams with people exercising in the background. Do it. Reopen the gym and then just do your live stream.
Well, the thing about lifting weights is that it's about 1 minute of lifting and then about half an hour of people just sitting around. It's really not that interesting to watch. It's powerlifting competitions, which is about the most boring sport to watch, except for cricket.
Although if you do if you give them a shot of schnapps, that could be
that adds to their lifts. That makes them stronger, but it doesn't make it any more entertaining to watch. Now, if you gave them a bottle of schnapps, then their lifting might be entertaining to watch.
There you go. Hit the package store when they're lifting. Just sneak over to their lockers and fill up their water bottles with the schnapps, and there you go.
So I've got these figurines that Bill T generously gave to me. Human fighter. What else do you need to play? and I think they're pretty cool. As I said, I'm not a minis guy. I mean, I like them. When I've had games with them, they definitely added to the game. It's just, as I've said before, like painting them is a whole hobby in itself.
Yeah.
Which is why, no doubt, why Bill T has got his own channel dedicated to it. And I've never had the time, space, or patience to do so. I've just dedicated that time to role-playing games instead. But no, they're very good little figurines. The guy's got some sort of leather gambeson on and some braces and trews. He's got, I'd probably call that a small shield. Probably not really a medium shield, more like a small shield. And he's got a spear and a sword. So he's pretty much set up to be in the shield wall, though I'd like a larger shield for that. But he's pretty much set up to go. And you could have the two figures either for, yes, here's me wielding my sword, or here's me wielding my spear. Or they could be brothers like Hengist and Horsa, who were the Saxons who was, historically were supposed to originally come over on the invitation of King Vortigern into Britain, and then betray him by, you want us to run your country for you? We will. Goodbye. So, yeah. Looks like a skirmish to me, says John Walker. Well, yeah. But, I mean, first level characters usually do look like skirmishers.
Yeah. Now,
First level character probably doesn't have the. He might have chain if he rolled well for the money, but it's pretty common for him to have lighter armor and cheaper or shorter weapons. So the first level character does tend to look more like a skirmisher. Later on, when he gets to higher levels and he's got all those men at arms, then that's a bit different.
Yeah, I was mentioning this to Kyle. We on my Monday night game, not live streamed, so don't go looking for this. But it's a private game. We actually got Sky Hernstrom to sit down a game with us Monday, and the average level in that game is 8th. And so he came in and said, "Well, I'm going to run a first level character. I got really lucky on hit points. I got 10 hit points, armor class 6, ringmail, shield, spear, broadsword." That was what he was rocking, a good solid fighter. And the party ran into a group of 6 fire giants. And Sky's character William, there's another Bill, he named his character William, no influence from me. He got cut in half by a fire giant's great iron sword. So I think it was 24 points of damage that his 10 hit point having fighter suffered. But he didn't suffer for long. I'll tell you that. 5 to 30 hits. 5 to 30 hits they do. So this one did fairly above average, but he wouldn't have survived an average injury at any rate. So anyway, yeah, those are actually gorgeous. And now I sent. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and just Bill, we're going to bring you into the stream, and you can talk to us about your praxis and the wonderful work that you did here for Kyle and all that sort of thing. So hello, Bill. Good to see you.
Hey, hi. How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thanks for being here. The minis look awesome, and I just want to let my audience and you know that today I finally sent the huge ancient red dragon from the Grenadier set, which you viewers voted for Paint Minis Live to paint up live, and I'm so looking forward to see it in all of its glorious glossy red and gold beauty and the treasure pile and everything. And then, of course, when I get it, I will open the, I guess now pushing 40-some-year-old packet of gemstones that came with the set, because I did not include those. I sent you a packing list in the box that says everything that's there. But when I get it back, I will carefully place those gemstones on it, and then it will be complete. And I'm sure you guys are going to do an absolutely fabulous job with that. And I'm very, very looking forward to it.
Well, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to get a chance to paint a piece of history like that. I mean, some of these models are they're really old. We were talking about it. You were telling me that this mold may even be a destroyed mold, meaning that it'll never be produced that same way again. And that's just something that not a lot of people have access to, even just to touch it. You know what I mean? That it's a really special opportunity, and I'm really excited to give it a chance to really shine the way that the artist intended to. And I'm really excited to try some new skills, stepping into some of this D&D miniature range. And before I get into that, I just want to say the two fighters, you were talking about how they were two different, maybe two brothers or something. And it got in my head, one's probably named Angus and the other one is Malcolm, because my favorite band comes from the land of Australia. And I think you could probably figure it out from there. So, obviously you got Angus in the front and he's, showboating, and Malcolm in the back strumming it out. With his
they got to have the amphora of wine before they go into battle, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just like those,
definitely.
sculling back the bottle of whiskey.
Right. Well, you got to have some whiskey before you prance around on stage. But yeah, I'm really excited to have this opportunity, and to I've met so many new people through the Dungeon Crew, and how much love that they've really sent my channel has been huge. So shout out to everybody who's kind of come over and taken a peek at what we're doing. We're now kind of moving into a new phase of our operation. We're bringing on Sarah, a new social media manager, because I'm a tech inept millennial, and I kind of need somebody to show me the ropes there. But yeah, it's we're growing, and we've got some new guests on the horizon for our own show. And I have to say, I'm in love with this one, and it's hard to get myself away from it, to get back down into the paint studio and try new stuff out. So, but yeah, Kyle, I'm so happy those minis got to you in a good condition. I tried to package them up as light as I could, but I'm still kind of recovering from the kidney surgery. I had to go sell that one on the black market, and my guy. Well, but I'm happy they're there, and I can't wait for all the stories we hear back from whatever happens with those minis and whatever games. Just send me a little tidbit, because I like hearing my works in use.
I've literally just messaged a friend of mine who was at the open game tables in the pre-lockdown era, because as I've mentioned on the show a couple of times, all the lockdowns wrecked a lot of the friendly local game stores, because obviously they weren't deemed essential stores, so people couldn't go in. So all the game clubs, and people were used to just gaming from home, they'll recover in time. They'll get, they'll build new ones and that's happening. Some new ones have popped up. But just going down and having the open game table, using all those tables that they usually use for board games or for Warhammer or CCGs, just having the role-playing game there. That used to be how I got a lot of gamers, got a lot of people into AD&D and Classic Traveller and all those old ones. And I've literally just messaged a friend saying, let's go back to that. We're also inhibited because there's a lot of construction works going on. So it would have been, you can get into the city in half an hour, but it's going to take you an hour and a half to get home later because you'll be taking a bus.
Right.
So I didn't really fancy doing that, getting home at midnight or something. So no, used to always do that, because the friend that I messaged, John, I used to always go and have a coffee with him afterwards and that. So anyway, just messaged, and the open game table works, but it helps if you have one or two players there to start with, so that when people come past, it's like you don't want to be the only people in a restaurant.
Right,
It's a
exactly.
bit nerve wracking to come up to be the first player
Right.
to a game group that you don't know. So if you can have one or two of the old ones there, and then other people come through, and you put your little thing up on the table, and they see the D&D books or the classic traveler books or whatever, and they go, oh, there's always this, like I was seeing a discussion on Dragon's Foot where a guy was basically wanting to do that, wanting to have an open game table and have people come in and that, and he's like, oh, but people are brainwashed by WotC, so they won't want to do it, and like, no, man, that's not true. There's people are interested. You'll find that people are more open-minded than you think. Plus, if you're at a game store where they do have those game tables for people to come, you have like 200 people come a week.
Right,
play their
yeah.
CCGs and all that. You don't need 200 people. You don't need them all to be interested. A Dungeon Master only needs like 3 to 6 players at their game table. Well, I mean, I know Bill needs 15 or something, but most normal people need 3 to 6 at their game table.
Right. I want to see Bill
Normal.
manage a group of 30 players, and they all need to be like between the ages of like 10 and 14. For sure. It would be the DM Olympics.
I'm not. I do not run kids games. I don't do it, man. I don't do it. But no, it's hearing about people going out and getting to getting back to physical game tables makes me happy. I am perfectly content with my Monday night group, but honestly, if I had 5 or 6 friends, 3 or 4 friends in Orlando who said, hey, you don't have to bring the Dwarven Forge, the minis, all that stuff. Just please come and run some AD&D for us, whether it's at Gods and Monsters, whether it's the library, whether it's at Bob's house or whatever, couple of times a month on a Saturday afternoon or evening, I do it gladly. So I do like face to face.
I mean, when I first got into, I guess what I would call nerddom, I'm a convert from the basic little boy. I am. I think we were all there at once. The basic little boy running around the backyard with a stick playing in the muck. And then somebody showed us the light and they were like, here's the nerddom. And that wasn't until I was like maybe like 13, 14 years old, and I started getting exposed to some of that stuff. And eventually it led me to a comic book collection. My grandpa had a comic book collection of Disney comics, and they were undervalued because somebody had written the name in the cover, right? Went to a local comic book shop, met a guy there, the owner, and ended up trading these comic books for $100 worth of in-store credit. He was like, run wild, do whatever you want, as long as it's under $100. You can take this. I can sell these to kids all day long. They love it. Their parents come in and buy, the next issue of whatever they're really looking for. And I make my money there. I'll sell it to the kids. So then I ended up finding a box of Chaos Space Marines. And I was like, wow, pointy bitted dudes that look like superhuman trans soldiers guys. And that really got me into, that was my gateway drug for hobbying. And eventually later on that led into some Dungeons and Dragons groups that were just, like you said, open table, right? It's super important to have that in this hobby where people can come in and experience it. And maybe even if they're not, if they're on their fence or whatever, they can kind of lean one way or the other. But that was really a big pivotal point for me when it came to RPGs, was that first couple of games. And I was playing these with like a couple of college kids, some older people. I mean, the tabletop talk around it was just like sailor speak. It was great. I had such a great time with that group. And that's really where I got my start with the RPG stuff. And it wasn't until just recently when I started watching your show, Bill, and listening to you, Kyle, as well as some of the other folks in this space, I was like, wow, yeah, no, there's a need for minis in this hobby, like how to paint them or just different techniques, because it's all about that at the end of the day. It's not necessarily just, slapping the paint on. It's like in order to achieve this effect, it's kind of like math. You run through an equation and it's got certain steps to it. If you just know the right techniques, you end up with something that looks absolutely beautiful. All your friends are going to be blown away. And it didn't take you more than 10, 15 minutes once you got it down to get the effect you're looking for. But I found that, it was kind of something that was needed. And I can't wait to dig more into it, especially with this dragon. And I've got a couple other super secret projects because they kind of involve your channel too. But super secret projects in the background that I've been working on. And it's really pushed me to improve my painting skills as a painter. And I would encourage anybody who's into D&D to go and pick up some models because they're dirt cheap. Like some of these models were really cheap at my local gaming store that I went to. It was family run, kind of the hole in the wall. But I really encourage them to go pick up some models, pick up some model paint. I prefer Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl line. They're great. But just pick up a couple bottles of whatever. Give it a shot. Thin it out. Find out how to thin your paints with a little water. And give it a shot. It's great relaxation.
It is. And the thing, the two cautions that I give people about painting minis, and Kyle, you actually touched on this about, it being a hobby unto itself. There is a trap. There is a trap it is in photography, it is in videography, it is in fly fishing, golfing, everything. And it is when the hobby becomes the hobby. And what I mean by that is I know a lot of people, and I've been slightly guilty of this myself. Fortunately, I haven't fallen too far down the rabbit hole, but I know a lot of people who have gone out and said, okay, I want to paint minis. I don't just want to paint minis. I want to paint minis really well, and I want to do a lot of it. So I'm going to scour the web, and I'm going to read all the articles and all the blog postings and all the forum postings and watch all the YouTube videos. And I'm gonna get the best gear there is for this, regardless of its mini paintings or fly fishing, golf, photography, whatever. And I've seen hobbyists get sucked past the event horizon straight into the singularity because they become obsessed with having the best gear and the best setup to do their hobby.
Yeah, it's the same everywhere. It's the same with all this gym junk that you see behind me. Like a barbell ultimately is just a long piece of metal about an inch thick, about 7 foot long and an inch thick that you can slap weight plates onto, so that you can progress the effort over time, do a little bit more over time. So it doesn't have to be really complicated or fancy. There are some things that make it a bit more pleasant if you're doing it a lot, like on the grip, there's a thing called the knurling. So the little cross hatching. You will have, even if you've never lifted, you will have seen knurling. If you go to like a disabled toilet, they've got a metal handrail. They've got the little cross hatching on it. To help the person's grip because they might have wet hands or whatever from washing their hands. So that knurling, that appears on the barbell as well. So if you're doing really slow lifts, something really heavy, having it be able to dig into your hand like that, it helps your grip, a big deadlift. But if you're doing a quick lift, snatching it up overhead, you don't want that really deep, rough knurling because it'll rip up your hands. So then you can get the barbell just for the deadlift, the barbell just for the snatch. And then you can get the cheap one that's made in China that's $200, which will do the job, but it might bend if you mistreat it. And then you can get the reasonably decent one for $500 or $700, which will last a long time, even if you mistreat it a bit. And then you can go for the top of the line Leica ones for like $1,800.
Wow, that's some commitment.
Well, that was $1,800 before all the lockdown. I'm sure if we went and looked it up now, it would be more because, I saw a documentary about how they made them, like the weight plates, the 10 kilogram weight plates. They make them of rubber, so that they'll bounce when you chuck them on the ground. Because if you got because the original gymnasiums were gymnasiums with wooden floors, and when guys were like chucking metal plates down, it tended to gouge a bloody great hole in the floor. So they had rubber ones, so it would absorb it a little bit, but of course rubber will bend. So then they put metal in the middle to reinforce it. And what these guys would do is they pour the rubber into the shape, and then they have the metal in the middle, and they weigh it, and they go, oh, okay, it needs to be 10 kilograms. That's 10,500. All right, take the metal off, mill it down. All right, that's 10,012. Oh, not quite good enough. 10,008. Okay, that's allowed, but we like to be a little bit better. 10,003. Okay, that's good enough. And then they take it away and they mill it together. And then there's the rubber, of course. If you've got a 10 kilogram weight plate, if they're going to be the same diameter, the 10 kilograms like this, but the 20 kilogram be like that. So they start to get a bit bulky as they get a bit heavier. So maybe when we're making the rubber, we like put some ceramic powder in it. It'll make it denser, and then it can be the same diameter, even though it's different weights. But then we've got to have like 5 different rubber mixes. It becomes proprietary. So they're doing all this crazy stuff to make it really top of the line, really great. And it is really top of the line. It is really great. But do you really need it like here in your home gym where you're not lifting anywhere near the world record, maybe 30% of the world record?
Right. Like Bill was saying, that rabbit hole of going down, the hardware path of some of these hobbies or whatever, or just spending money on your hobby, and falling down that pit. I've kind of realized over time, I need to put my money where my priorities are. So, I have put money into my painting stuff, but like, I don't really have a home gym or anything. So I started lifting sacks of potatoes, and I start off with one, big sack of potatoes, and I'm lifting it up and I'm doing the workout. Right. And then I got to two sacks of potatoes. Right. And I think at this point I'm strong enough where next week I'm going to try putting the potatoes back into the sack.
That's a good one. I think the best advice for me is I used to obsess over what to do to like take the curl out of brush tips and how to, once you're done with a brush, like what, should I use, should I use mousse? Should I use VO5 to straighten the bristles and what to do, that sort of thing. Sam Lenz, do you know Sam Lenz, Bill?
Oh yeah, I've got his brushes.
Right.
Yep. That I idolize that guy a little bit.
That's funny because one of the earliest videos I ever saw with Sam Lenz, they were basically talking techniques to different painters, and one painter was like, well, I use the Masters brush soap, and another painter was like, well, you can use Palmolive. You can basically you wash your brush in Palmolive gently, and of course you use a natural hair brush, and then you bring it down into a tip, and then I use this brush conditioning cream and that sort of thing. And I loved Sam's answer. I throw them away. They're $2 a piece. I throw them in the trash. When I'm done, I go get another new brush. That's how I do it. They're $2 to $3 a piece. And I've said this to many painters before, and I don't know if there's been a tectonic shift with Mr. Lenz. And I did speak to Sam a couple of times before the show. Like I looked at maybe taking mini painting lessons from Sam back in the day. And unfortunately, when he offered that service, he filled up fast. So while I was thinking about it and wondering where I was going to get that $50 a month, he got full up to the gills with clients. But Sam's a great guy. But when I tell some mini painters that story about Sam saying, just throw them away and get another one, they're like, well, my brushes are natural sable hair. I would like to see a $2 brush that can paint minis this good. Let me tell you something. You could go to Goodwill and for probably $60 or $70, pick up a set of sticks and hand them to Tiger Woods, and he will beat your ass up and down the fairway all afternoon long.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Two full sets for 36 holes. Meanwhile, you can have Ping FC, $500 a piece clubs, and you're just out into the rough every time. Slice.
Yeah.
Well, think of it this way: a 5th level fighter has the equivalent bonus to hit of a man at arms with a +5 sword.
Just so. I mean, I think that I think that
the +5 sword probably cost a lot more than it would cost him to get up to 5th level.
Right. Talking about brushes, and I'd totally agree. Use what you got, use what you can afford. In painting, part of it is consumables, and I'm sure you're maybe I'm not sure which way I'm facing on screen, but Kyle, I'm sure you're okay, that way. Got it. All right. Kyle, I'm sure that your gym probably uses up some consumables, wipes or something, people want to clean down the equipment or whatever, right? It's the same thing with the painting hobby.
I clean down the equipment, but
okay.
There's
chalk.
chalk. Yeah, there's weightlifting chalk, so it enhances your grip. And I got the wrong camera.
That's where you see them. They rub their hands together and big old poof of that stuff comes off,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw pictures of your gym. It's absolutely lovely, man. You've got some great
use
stuff going there.
Cheers. They usually use too much chalk. See that barbell on the ground? You see how there's a couple of white spots on it?
Yeah, is that just buildup?
That's not buildup. That's from last night.
Wow.
Guy who came along. Well, it wasn't. I didn't have just one guy, but one guy was doing that, and he put so much bloody. That's what he's got.
That's some determination. I'll give it to him. Give it to him.
Looks like Al Pacino was lifting weights over there.
The stuff's cheap, so I mean it doesn't. It's like it's $20 for a box of 12 or something like that.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, there's that, and I clean it. Apart from that, there's a water cooler. That's like $15 for like a 4-gallon bottle or something, and
Sure.
There's also a tap outside. I hate water bottles and stuff. Like my whole family has. We're sitting there at dinner, and they've got their frigging water bottles. It's like, what's wrong with a cup? Like, okay, you're going hiking in the woods, right? You can't carry this cup with you the whole time. I'm not going to walk through the woods like this.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay, you have a water bottle there. That's fair enough. Or like you're cycling or something. So you've got that water bottle down the middle of your bike, because it's a bit hard to cycle like this.
Right.
On your penny farthing.
Yeah, you need penny farthing for that. Yeah. And a monocle.
So that's fair enough. But you're sitting there having dinner. What the hell have you got? What, do you want to eat dinner out of like Tupperware as well?
Right.
I don't get it. There's water bottles. But anyway, they like their water cooler and everything. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's $100 a year rental or something, and the rental and service, and then the $15 or something for the stupid big water bottle, and that makes it happy. So there's not a lot of consumables, big capital.
Okay. Well, I mean,
but yeah, it's definitely mainstream gyms with all the treadmills and all that. You're constantly cleaning the damn things, and you'd think that like wherever they put the treadmills out, you would think it's the one that doesn't get used much that collects dust, just like your bookshelf, with the role-playing games that you haven't looked at for 6 years. But no, it's actually the ones that do get used a lot because of static electricity, because there's rubber and a person walking on it.
Okay.
So static electricity builds up and attracts the dust. So you're constantly having to clean it because though the gym members make a mess, they're really indignant when there is a mess. How dare you?
I just want to point out
sweat on this. Well, it's yours, dude. So.
Even if I lived in Melbourne, Kyle, with all love and respect, my friend, I don't know that I could attend your gym. I don't see a single treadmill with a high def TV in front of it constantly streaming CNN.
Right. You have to have one at least, right?
Yeah, you have to have that. Isn't that a law down there? I would think it is. So I can put my earbuds in and watch the outrage of the day while I'm listening to new age music and walking
Well,
on the
what I actually do is I have this laptop, and when the gym members bore me, I just turn to the laptop and I find something amusing and I show it to them. So
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, but if you got like no matter where you get your brushes from, any day you're painting is a good day. You're practicing an art form, just like telling a story, just like teaching somebody how to lift a weight or how to do a bench press or what have you. You're practicing an art form, and I think the more that people do that, the more that they'll engross themselves in it, and the less they'll find that their stress levels are rising. You know what I mean? And so John Walker made a point in the comments. You can pick up $2 sable brushes. I'm not sure if they're totally sable or whatever, but you can pick up $2 brushes that'll work just fine, or at least have the right characteristics you want in them. Pick them up and then trash them later if you need to. I mean, I have plenty of brushes that I keep around that have hooked ends or frayed ends. I still save them because they're great for getting paint out of a pot or getting into a crevice that you just can't reach with a normal pointed brush. You can save them, you can dump them, do whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're painting and you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself and your blood pressure isn't rising, good on you. Like, do it. It's great. You know what I mean? Hail
Lobster, Michael Connor. What do you think of the new widescreen? I got to ask everybody who shows it. I can do this now, and my hands don't disappear off of the shot. Although looking in the lens now, like the crap that I've shoved into the corners that you guys never saw. I can see my legs under the table here. If you can see it, that's where my knee is at. Just below. Wow. So I actually now have to start considering how I want things to look. But going back to brushes or equipment or anything you do with, I mean, and this is something I emphasized all the way back. I talked a little bit about this last night, and this is something I always want to come back around to. And I told like Vile Necromancer. I was telling Vile Necromancer this, which we miss you, kid. Come back to the fold. Do some more videos, Vile. But I think a lot of people, when the lockdowns came here in the United States and they lost the ability to have that one interaction that they could have with real live people that wasn't just watching TV or, talking over the phone. I said, you don't, it's not the same as being in someone's house and, playing with their cat between your turns at the table and whatnot, ordering Chinese together. I realize it's not quite the same, but you don't have to give it up. But the one thing that I emphasized, like all this, the Dwarven Forge that's out there, all the, 10 copies of the Player's Handbook and, Gary's autograph on 1 in 7 of the books that I own and that sort of thing. You don't need it. You don't need that stuff. You don't need studio lights. You don't need a wide angle lens. You don't need a 4K DSLR, 2 monitors, a streaming PC. You need, if a mobile phone can get you on the internet, guess what? You don't have to give up your game. And,
that's all Todd had when he was playing Classic Traveler.
Yeah.
With BOGO, right? BOGO.
There's a perfect example when, BOGO on Friday nights and Bubba on Wednesday nights.
It helps that he had this distinctive voice. So even if you didn't have the visual, you knew that you were talking to Todd.
Right.
Arkansas. What's
the entry price for an Android phone, $49 at Walgreens.
Mhm.
So something like that, a contract Android phone that'll give you 4G and voice, which is enough to get on Discord. And
Mhm.
it may not be the most convenient, nicest thing in the world, but my God, don't
Well, and
fall down.
also, I mean, usually the most expensive thing is the data, but hey, usually your local library will have a free Wi-Fi connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even Starbucks or something, a coffee
Yeah.
shop usually has got a bunch of Wi-Fi
go and
too,
get-
right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you go and get your $10 headphones,
Yeah.
and you be the crazy guy sitting in the corner of Starbucks rolling the dice.
Well, I
Yeah,
used to
it's
wonder because, like at the start of every semester, if the kids' grades were good before school, we'd get up at the crack of dawn, which actually was okay with them. Like it was rougher on me, but we'd get up at the crack of dawn. And this is before my youngest, she decided she wanted to be homeschooled, and my eldest, before she decided she wanted to do self study to finish up her high school. And we would go to McDonald's at the start of every semester, and of course we'd cap off the beginning and ends of the school year with it. And there'd always be a couple of old guys sitting back in the back of the McDonald's at that hour of day, and not vagrants or transients or anything like that. It just older folks sitting there. And I always wondered, well, what are they doing up, and why is it so important that they're the McDonald's getting their hotcakes and their coffee, or their egg McMuffin and their
Right. It's always like coffee black. One
coffee black
Yeah.
and an egg McMuffin, or a stack of hotcakes. But now they'll be gaming. When Gen Y and Gen Z come in and with their kids, and they're like, what is that old guy doing? We're playing Dungeons and Dragons, thank you very much.
I've always had a joke with some friends. I can't wait to go to McDonald's, order my cup of black coffee, bring in my dusty old giant desktop that's still running Windows 8, and playing Call of Duty or whatever with them.
Yeah.
That's kind of or yeah, like you said, Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. Like the older generation of millennials or whatever, it's going to be a trip when you walk into McDonald's. It's going to be hilarious. I can't wait to find out.
The obsession with gear, I think the role-playing game equivalent of that, apart from, I mean, obviously there's plenty of people who collect zillions of role-playing games. We all buy more role-playing games than we'll ever play, but some people are even crazier about it. But the rules tinkering, that's the worst. I see that, I occasionally go and look at the D&D forums on this and that discussion forum. And I've quoted before S. John Ross, the RPG writer. He used to be a moderator on the GURPS mailing list. And he said that you could always tell the difference between the questions that came up from during play, some issue that arose during play, and the questions that came up just from reading the rules. Because there's a lot of stuff that when you read the rules, you go, that doesn't make any sense at all. But in play, it's fine. And vice versa. There's stuff that comes up in play that it would never occur to the rules designer to have dealt with in the rules. And it may actually be something important. The games with staying power like AD&D and that tend to be the ones where they were pretty comprehensive. They covered pretty much everything. And I saw an example of that the other day with a guy, and he was talking about spears. And he thought spears needed to be able to do more, basically. He wanted spears to be able to keep the foe off.
Okay.
It's the old, like back in my day, in the 90s and stuff, but a katana, it's better than a longsword because blah, blah, blah. You have your favorite weapon, and so you want the rules to change so that your favorite weapon is as awesome as you say it is.
Right. Yeah. Don't
That's what it comes to.
Right. Right.
But he wasn't even aware of the rules as they were. So the spear is a pretty effective weapon in D&D, and you go, it only does 1d6 damage against regular people. Yeah, it does 1d8 against large opponents, but it's also the only weapon that you can set against a charge.
Mm.
And
Okay.
then when they're charging in, they get -2 to their AC, and they receive double damage, and they're always struck first.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't set an axe or a longsword against a charge. You can't even set a greatsword against a charge, though I'm sure there's been some player who goes, oh, but William Wallace in that movie, he held it like this. And then
Right.
what if it was what if I had one that was made 8 foot long? That's longer than a spear, man. So I should be able to do it. And of course you can throw it as well. So it's cheap. So it's a pretty good weapon. But he wasn't even aware of all those differences. And then he was sort of coming up with all these different rules and all the rest. And I just said, you need a game group, mate. Like if he's sitting around playing a game, he's not going to be worried about all these details. Whether he's a dungeon master or he's a player, he's not going to be worried about all this, because he'll realize that whatever the rules say, it all comes out in the wash, so to speak. It just these sort you make all these little minor differences, and then you roll 1d20 and you get 1. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Eventually, it boils down to luck of the dice, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. It was like my running GURPS became a lot quicker. I don't do it anymore, but it became a lot quicker when when I was busy calculating all the bonuses and malluses and that. And then my friend Emil said, who was playing, said, look, why don't you just roll the dice? Because if you roll like 3, 4, or 5, you fail. You succeed no matter what. And if you roll 17 or 18, you fail no matter what. So just roll the dice. And if you get this, and because if it's like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 or something, then the bonuses actually matter. But if it's really good or really bad roll, they don't matter. And like, yeah, actually, Emil, you're right. So like about half the time, all those things didn't matter.
Right.
So that considerably sped up play.
Well, I mean, it kind of brings up a little bit of a different topic. Local Gumby was talking about this earlier. I think Bill, you were highlighting his comment. That his youngest ran a Warhammer Quest game on Discord with 3 of his friends. And I think that it's really important that younger kids know that there's other things out there. If they're interested in this hobby, there's other things out there besides just the King and the Castle. Dungeons and Dragons 5th or whatever edition that they're calling it now, or what they're gonna call it later. There's other things out there, and also the chain of information from older to younger and how that passes down it's really essential, and it's something that I think that society really benefits from, and we should put a priority on, because I've found from here so many different systems. Kyle, with your conflict system, I thought that was genius. Like, I read through the rule book. That was my going to sleep material for about 3 days. I thought it was ingenious. I loved it.
Normally that means it's boring.
No, not at all. It was just when I had time to read, but I thought that was really genius. And anybody who hasn't taken a look at Kyle's work, definitely should, because it's a really nice system. And if you're into modern conflict style, gunplay and so on and so forth, really cool system. But I would never have known it had I not stumbled across this community. And
have a tank duel. I'm just waiting for the vehicle rules.
Right. But yeah, it's great to see that people are taking these older games to heart and bringing them to new generations of folks. And me too. I'm happy that I've found this community with its own culture and its own history, revolving around a historical edition of a game. It's cool. It is cool stuff, and I hope more younger people like me find and latch onto it. I know there's some out there that are already probably here, but yeah, it's really unique, and I appreciate the fact that you guys go out and do this show. It's very cool. So thank you for meeting you.
Thanks.
Not a
Very
problem,
kind of you
man.
to say.
Yeah.
I'd say a couple of things to that. One is, as I said before, I like the guy who wanted to, have 3d6 down. He was on Dragon's Fort and going, I want to have 3d6 down line and run an AD&D game, pretty old school like that. And there was the occasional dickhead popping up going, well, actually, 3d6 is not recommended anywhere in the rules and that. It's like, yeah, but that's what he wants to do. So
Mhm.
so he was saying, look, how do I best present it so that people who might be a bit skeptical, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, you're going to find that they're not as skeptical as you think. Just go to your friendly local game store, open game table, blah, blah, blah. That no, people are not all brainwashed by WotC. That's a ridiculous assertion. But even if they were, like I said, you're going to have 200 people going through that store every week and sitting down playing their CCGs and their Warhammer and board games and other role-playing games. And you don't need to convince everyone. You just need 3 to 6 people. And you're going to find 3 to 6 out of those 200.
Oh, yeah.
It might take you a little while, but you'll find them, and they'll come along, and then, you'll have a regular game group. Some people will float in, some people will float out. That's all right. But you'll be able to play the game that you want, whatever that is. Whatever that is, whether it be the latest edition of D&D or some Thespy narrative sort of game with telling a story, whatever, that's, you'll find it, whatever that might be. People are more open-minded than you give them credit for. I think you imagine that there's sort of brand loyalty. Certainly the people and corporations that come up with the brands would like to believe there's a lot of brand loyalty. But most people don't really passionately care either way about Coke or Pepsi.
Right. It's soda or pop either way, right?
Yeah, I want a sweet fizzy drink. Hand it
right.
over. Give me my Mountain Dew. What's that? I don't know. Anyway, this is like not at all reminiscent of a mountain or the dew on a whatever. It's sweet and fizzy.
Yeah. If you're deep enough in the South and you go into a restaurant that serves Pepsi, you can't ask for a Coca-Cola and they won't say we only serve Pepsi. You'll get a Pepsi because in the deep South, Coca-Cola is soda. It's like, do you say soda or do you say pop? We say Coca-Cola, and it's whatever cola drink you have. RC, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola. You go into a place. Let me get a Coca-Cola. You might get a Pepsi, but that's fine because you use the generic.
Right. You have to specifically say, I want a Pepsi Coke, or I want an RC Coke, or I want a Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Right?
Pepsi Coke I haven't heard in a long, long time, but occasionally when I was a kid in Alabama, you'd hear some folks from up in the hills or out in Southside or Hoax Bluff. They'd say, yeah, give me a Pepsi Coke or an RC Coke or something like that.
The other thing I'd say, apart from you'll find more people interested than you think, because as long as you're enthusiastic about it yourself, is that even if you yourself don't play AD&D First Edition or Classic Traveller or Complete or whatever, even if you can still get some ideas from them. You'll get a few ideas, you get a few elements. What if we played 5th edition, but characters can actually die? How might that change things?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's always worth it if you're into your hobby to go out there and try new things and get new ideas and it just enriches your hobby.
So
widens your social circle as well.
So say, Kyle, thinking back to those miniatures that I sent you, there's one of them that has, and they are resin, I think resin cast or something like that. They're plastic cast models. And yeah, this guy with the sword, and it has such a bend to it. And I just keep telling myself, it's not the sword you wield, it's how you use it, right? Because it's a hard right bend, and I tried to get that out with like a hair dryer. I couldn't do anything about it. It was just formed during the casting process. It's hilarious though.
I assume it was meant to be a scimitar. assume that's what-
Maybe I have no
Because
clue.
there's a bend on the hilt as well, so that kind of fits in with the theme.
All right. Yeah. Well, maybe that was the case, and I
don't know.
I just likened it to having a particular sword. Anyways, moving on.
But anyway, yes. So that is an absolutely lovely job. There. Speaking of, and it was important that I got the miniature out to you today, and I wish I'd taken a picture of this. But if you are looking the miniature over as you're examining it, down on his left foot, Bill, you're going to see a little faint stain of red.
Okay.
That red. Okay, so when I got the mini, complete in box, I got the mini. Whoever had owned it before me had attempted to paint it like the instructions given in the inlay in the box, which I've shown on camera. So they had base coated it red, and they had done some yellow on it, and it didn't look good. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to go digging on the shelf. I have minis over here from my youth that I attempted to paint that looked no better or worse. And I put it in simple green, and the paint literally just floated off. At that time, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. So like 35-year-old paint at that point. And it literally, like, I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to have to soak this in simple green. And I put one of the pre-painted wings in, and literally it hit the bottom of the little Tupperware container, and the paint on the wing floated off in a complete casting of the wing. And most of it, I was just like, okay, I don't really need the toothbrush and the hot water and the dish soap mixed in. It was just cold water and the toothbrush, and I went around on it. That tiny little dot of red on its right foot, where it's standing on the base, would not come off. I scrubbed at it. I picked it. I didn't want to gouge the soft metal, so I didn't pick at it that much. And when I gave it a wash of primer, which you're probably going to want to hit it with some more primer because I've handled it a lot.
Okay.
That little bit of polyester red paint seeped up through the primer. So there's a tiny, like a pinpoint. You won't see it unless you look for it.
I wonder if it wasn't like an oil based or enamel paint, because those are you can't really get that off with that's anything in my experience, anyways. The tester's enamels, if it's on a metal mini and you have the patience, brake fluid and constant work with a toothbrush. Wow.
Or some people, there is a substance called aircraft paint remover, because apparently aircraft paint is something really, really tough. There's a guy, and he unfortunately hasn't done a video in like 3 years. That is Bare Metal Restorations, and he collects rare Hot Wheels. Because how much, Kyle? You guys had Hot Wheels cars down there, right?
Yeah. We had.
Yeah. We all had Hot Wheels cars when we were kids, and we Mom, I want a Hot Wheels car. You get it from the impulse stand at the grocery store. The
We
7-Eleven.
had Matchbox cars. I don't know.
We had Matchbox.
It wasn't Matchbox cars a UK brand?
Yeah, Matchbox was UK, but they were a close second, and we even saw some Corgi here in the United States, but those are a little more exotic. Those were more toy-like than the Hot Wheels, which were kind of more focused on muscle cars and hot rods. But so this guy Bare Metal HW on YouTube restores Hot Wheels cars, and his lore and this guy is to Hot Wheels lore as like I am to AD&D lore, and it's so much fun to watch his videos. And when he gets a car to restore, it's like a kid has dipped it in a bucket of White House paint, or painted on it with model paints. It's just the original paint job is almost completely destroyed. Yeah, he sprays it with aircraft paint remover, which foams like Easy Off.
Whoa.
And anytime he handles it, he's got like these big, thick
Chemical gloves.
scientist gloves that he's cleaning it with. So that might get old testers paint off of your metal minis, but for God's sake, apparently you need a Tyvek suit to handle the stuff. But
the Hot Wheels talk and the talk earlier of finding your game or your hobby reminds me. I saw a clip the other day. I've no idea what movie it's from. It's a Christian Bale movie, and it must have been set in like the 50s or 60s or something like that. And this guy rocks up to the garage, the mechanic shop, and Christian Bale's the mechanic, and the guy's got some sort of race car, and Christian Bale's saying to him, look, really, to run this, you can't treat her gently. You've got to be a bit rough with her. You don't change gears when you're at 2,000 RPM. You push it up to 5,000. Really make her beg for it, and then you change gears. Then you go for it. That's how you do it. That's how you ride this. That's how you do this car, drive this car. And the guy's all indignant and saying, "What? You telling me I don't know how to drive my car?" He says, "Oh no, you know how to drive your car, but this isn't your car. Your car is more like a Plymouth or a Studebaker or something."
Yeet. Wow.
So, yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about hobbies. Role-playing games, that's my hobby. Miniatures, no, that's not my hobby. I'll use miniatures, I enjoy them, but it's not my hobby because I'd be changing at 2,000 as well.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? That's perfectly okay. And what a beautiful thing it is to be part of a hobby where it branches out in so many different directions. There's some people, knitting and crocheting. I guess you can get into different patterns and stuff, and different groups that do different kinds of stuff. But isn't it nice that we have a hobby that has so many tendrils in so many different places? Who would have thought of aircraft paint remover? At some point, I'm guessing there was probably some aircraft mechanic somewhere that was like, I'm just going to bring this home and try it on my minis. You know what I mean? There's so many people out there that are part of this.
I hope it doesn't melt them.
Right.
And the wild thing is, at least on the Hot Wheels cars, the aircraft paint remover does nothing to plastic. Like it completely leaves plastic alone. I don't know what magic crap is in aircraft paint remover, but the plastic on Hot Wheels cars is just like, whatever.
Like a lead-lined egg basket if I ever try that trick and just make sure. Yeah. Okay, got it. That's wild. That is wild.
I have a Grenadier Wizard down here. He may still be in the jar. I don't see him immediately. If you guys do, holler, because now you can see everything. But,
sounds like a great song, like "Wizard in the Jar." Oh,
yeah.
Like whiskey in a jar song.
I got him in a job lot of minis, and I put him in the simple green. I was like, "Oh, this is old Grenadier Wizard, man. I want to clean this guy up," because he was like some, again, testers or some other kind of enamel paint. And I threw him in simple green for a couple of days, and it was just like, I'm tired, boss. I'm tired of people being mean to each other. And I'm like, okay, it's okay, simple green. I'll save you for some acrylics. It's okay, buddy. So I said, well, I have denatured spirits. You can go swim around in Mr. Alcohol for a while. And let's see, we are past the 30-minute mark. So yeah, it's been a week in there, and I could see little flecks floating. And I'm like, I got my toothbrush and I got my gloves on, and I, took it outside and vented the jar so the fumes would. And I started going at it with that brush. And I swear, if that wizard could talk, he probably would have gone, ha ha ha! Fuck you! That paint did not budge. It didn't. I threw them back in the jar in disgust, but I honestly think I will dissolve the lead before I dissolve the paint. Like I'll reach in there one day and there'll just be this mushy husk of paint with all the lead has disintegrated completely.
Just a big colored ball. It looks like a forbidden jawbreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like that. I get people ask me every now and again, and maybe you get this, Paint Minis, that they're like, "Oh, I have this really cool dragon or demon or character or whatever from D&D Minis days. How do I strip it so I can repaint it?" And having tried many times, again, speaking for myself, you don't.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, if you get like an eBay mini or whatever have you, just you've already bought the level of detail out of that mini. That is what it's going to be, and you're just going to prime right over it, because if somebody used some Krylon on that thing, it's never coming off. It is never coming off.
The D&D minis from WotC back from the early 2000s, that paint is manufactured onto it. There's a Chinese industrial combine that told Hasbro, here's how we're going to do this. And it's not going to be some little old lady carefully. No, it's going into a machine. It's going to be clamped down, and jets are going to put this on, and it's going to be baked at like 150 degrees centigrade. And that color is never coming off, ever. So little kids won't lick it. It won't. They can't rub the mini on the wall and get the blue of the wizard's cape on the wall. It's that way. So, and you said the magic word. If you get that mini, just prime it. Mm-hmm. Just prime it and paint it to your liking, because you're not getting Wizards of the Coast's colors off of D&D minis from the early 2000s. It's not happening.
Right. And just about like, painting in general with miniatures. If you're into miniatures and like you just need some test pieces, eBay is a wonderful place to go and find that stuff. Just for even if you're like a war gamer and you want to start an army or something, get one second hand. If you don't have the cash or you don't have the drive to like go buy it new, and you just want to get something from eBay and maybe just class it up a little bit, there's tons of secondhand stuff out there. That's half the stuff I paint is just secondhand stuff, and it's great for like practice models too, or some of this new D&D stuff. I had a lot of fun with painting your models, Kyle. But one of the things that if you do go and get some of these newer D&D models that are already primed, one of the things that I found was that the primer on it is hydrophobic, like really hydrophobic. It will not take water-thinned acrylic paints for the life of me. Like, it had to basically be coming straight from the pot with just like the smallest amount of water I could get it to, behave on the brush, and it was just wild. Like if I wanted to get these out to you soon because it was your birthday, and I didn't want it to be like 10 months later, you're now getting your miniatures. Hey, happy birthday, but I was trying to get them out. Birthday. And right, yeah. I was trying to get them out, and if I would do it again, I would just say, get some spray can primer, like model grade spray can primer from Army Painter, whatever have you. They're all easy to get off if you want to redo it later, but put that right on top of it, because that primer that they are using does not play well with paints that are thin correctly for painting. It was quite interesting to deal with that, but I still think we got a pretty good result on that mini, all things considered.
Yeah, I think so. I like it.
Well, there you go. Something else, and Kyle, you might find as things open up, you were mentioning this, and also to you, PML, if you have local wargaming cons and they have a flea market, Not the vendors area, but if they have like a flea market on Saturday from like 2 to 4, or from 6 to 8 or whatever, I actually saw this. I used to go to the HMGS, Historical Miniatures Gaming Society's conventions, for a number of years in the early 2000s here in Florida. In fact, that's why the WGH 2, 3, 4, and 5 modules exist, is because of my going to those conventions.
Oh.
But if you go to their flea markets, a lot of times you'll see guys who will show up with a fantasy army or a sci-fi army, and they'll play and they'll lose and they'll sell their army.
Whoa, really? Like right on the spot?
Like at the flea market. I mean, I never talked to the guys doing that. So it may have been their intention. I'll play this one last time. I'll field my Tau one last time. I'll field my orcs, my elves, my American Civil War. I've got 15 millimeter. I got 300 ACW figures. I'll do Pickett's Charge one more time, and then I'm going to sell them for like 75 cents a piece.
That is like that to me sounds like the original rage quit for gaming.
I saw it more often than not, but
wow.
And it wasn't.
I need to start going to these cons.
It wasn't.
Well, I mean,
everybody.
It could be if you're defeated, you have to concede your entire army to your opponent.
Yeah.
Like playing for pink slips for cars or something, right?
And I actually at one of those cons, I gave a guy. Now I understand this is the early 2000s, so I didn't feel I was ripping him off. I gave him $50. I said, "Look, do you want to carry all these AD&D books back home?" "No, I don't." "Here's $50. Let me have that stuff." And I got like a few 2E books, but I got an easily cover Dungeon Masters and an easily cover Players and an easily Monster Manual and original cover Monster Manual. I got a nice stack. But the big haul was, and this was one of their vendors. There was a guy who had shrink-wrapped copies of Chainmail, the silver, metallic silver covered copies of Chainmail. And I asked the guy, because they had like a thick layer of price stickers. Like he had priced them over and over.
Oh, wow.
The topmost one was $8, not $7.99, not $8.99, $8. And he had 5 of them. And I said, are these $8 a piece? He was not a D&Der. This is a guy who did like, Victorian Boer Wars, ACW, Hittites versus Assyrians. He was a war gamer.
Right, historical kind of guy, right?
And he had literally bought these from TSR in like 1976. He bought a case lot of them to sell at his store in Tampa that sold like I think he told me he sold like model railroad stuff. And when he semi-retired, he just started bringing his select stuff from his shop to the vendors hall of this con.
Okay.
And he said I sold out of a few of them, but they never seemed to move. And I said, this is old TSA. And he's like, yeah, I know. And I went and told my wife, and my wife, Colleen, said, buy them all. Buy all of them.
Yeah. There you go.
So I go over there with 220s, and I said, I'll take all 5. And he said, well, since you're buying all 5, I'll give you a price break. And he gave me $5 change.
There you go.
5 shrink-wrapped copies of Chainmail.
If you know what you're looking for. Yeah.
$7 a piece.
Wow.
The Aseum will probably give you 10 grand for them.
I sold a couple of them off. One of them I'm very proud, and I was mentioning this on Twitter earlier. In 2008, so this would have been a few years later. This would have been 4 years later. In the Green Zone in Iraq, the Army approved a gaming convention to be held in a USO facility in the green zone, and it was called Ziggurat Con. And the Army guys asked for donations from home, like, "Hey."
Sorry, I've just got this middle picture. Have you seen the Matt Damon movie Green Zone?
Yeah.
I'm imagining him like dashes down an alley, kicks in a door, runs through, and there's these guys sitting around in cam gear,
Yeah.
like, with their paper and rolling dice, going, "What up,
That
man?"
does double damage. It double damage, man.
He's like, "What's going on?" And he runs through and bursts out the other door, and the action continues. Sorry.
So at that time, I had a little online business selling RPG books, and it had gone nowhere. This is not a big deal. So I grabbed a stack of like 2 copies of each of the core 3.5 books, and we went to the store and bought a bunch of peanuts and beef jerky and snacks that would keep during shipping, Pringles, that sort of thing, and threw those in there. But in the box, I put one of those shrink wrap copies of Chainmail, and we sent it. And I wonder, I wonder, and I wish I knew, not because I want it back, I just wish I knew who had it. I wish I knew what had happened to it.
The story, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I wish it's kind of like you put a message in a bottle and you throw it out to sea, and you always wonder if it'll, who's sure it'll wash up on and that sort of thing. So I wonder where that message in a bottle went.
Right. Hey, and to your point there, I'm so happy to kind of have the conclusion of, it got to Australia. It looks like it didn't get damaged. And what a wonderful thing it is to be able to paint up some work and send it all the way around the world.
It was just this little cardboard box, and I handed it to my son because he's into cubing, into Rubik's cubes. And
oh, okay.
Like, Rubik's Cubes goes beyond your little 3x3 thing. There's a 2x2, and then there's 4x4, and so on.
Okay.
And it's not just who can solve it in the quickest time. They do 5 attempts. They discard the slowest time and the quickest time, and they take the average of the other 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all these rules for, did you complete it? Like, was that last turn, and if the last turn is past 45 degrees, they count that as completed.
Okay.
And then there's a one-handed, and then there's blindfolded, where you get to pick it up and look at it for 15 seconds, and then you put it down, and they pull the blindfold on, and then you have to do a blindfolded, and there's all this sort of crazy shit that they do. So it goes on, and then of course there is the different levels of gear, right? You can get your $2 Rubik's Cube from the Chinese cheapie shop.
Okay.
That's what we call them here, because the cheap shop, the cheap junk shop.
Right. Yeah.
It's always run by. It's full of stuff from China, and it's run by a Chinese guy. They're making a business, doing a good living. Good on them. The Chinese, so you can get the $2 or even $1 Rubik's Cube from there, and it falls apart tomorrow. But you could get the really slick one, and they actually sell lubricants so that it moves just that slightly more quickly. Because when you're there doing it in 10 seconds, it could make that lubricant make the difference between 10 seconds and 9.9.
Right. That tenth of a second.
Yep. So figurines, hot cars, whatever it is, whatever the hobby, barbells, whatever the hobby, there's always somewhere further you can go, some flasher, more expensive gear that you can get,
Mm-hmm.
So he'll occasionally come up to me and say, "Oh, Papa, I need to buy this," and he gives me the cash, and I buy it from him online, and then it's delivered. So when I saw this little cube box, I was like, okay, and I handed it to him, and he said, "No, it won't be mine. It's too light."
Oh wow! You just tell by the weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so we opened it, but just in case, I opened it together, and there was the figurine.
Maybe this is Kyle. You're now our cube our cube guy.
Cube guy.
Our cube guy. So maybe you can tell me. But I've seen, like, at the Rubik's Cube competitions, guys, they'll like pick up a Rubik's Cube and the thing is literally falling all over itself. Like when I was a kid and I got a Rubik's Cube, it was like, it's
Real
like
stiff.
you got a wrist workout. And even before we got rid of the thing, it went to Goodwill or a yard sale or something. It was still like you had to have stick authority to make control changes in it. And I see these guys in the competitions like your son goes to, they'll like pick a cube up by two corners and it'll change faces 6 times on its own.
Yeah.
Damn thing's so loose.
They do this, and the conventions, it's like 90% 8 to 12-year-old boys.
Do they ever like name their Rubik's cubes? Because if I was in a competition like that or something, I would just name mine ex-girlfriend.
No, not to my knowledge.
It would spin those extra 6 faces or whatever. It would be you get the idea.
Somebody's bitter. His name is Kyle, but they call him the Cube, says Wave.
Right.
Not to my knowledge, they don't. No, they seem to be kind of unsentimental about them.
Okay.
They'll take like several with them to a convention,
Okay.
and then they just pick whichever one they feel is good. They seem to be a bit like players. Like beginning of a game session, they'll have their several sets of dice, and then they'll roll, and they'll go, okay, which one is worthy?
Right.
Okay, this
Which one
D20
gets the
keeps
dice
rolling
jail?
high. Yeah,
Yeah.
this one keeps rolling high, so I need to use it in play. So I think they sort of get the feel of, this feels good today, so I'm going to use this one.
Sure.
That seems to be the thing, because they take far more than they need. I understand they take spares because they can actually fall apart while you're using them, because you're moving it so quickly.
Right.
It can fall apart, and then you could put the thing back together. And they've even got rules for that, like, if one piece falls out, but all the other pieces, all the other sides are in place, then that's fine. But if 2 pieces fall out, no.
Okay.
Sorry, you lose. That's like, okay.
So, and I wanted to say, I sent you those models. The like little whatever gravel they're standing on is white, and it's because I didn't know what tabletop or I don't know if you had any scenery or a mat to put it on, and I was just thinking,
No.
you just put some orange on that if you got like a desert thing or whatever. So I left that intentionally white. I wasn't sure.
Normally my battle maps are a piece of paper that I scroll on.
Oh, well, then it's white for that. Yeah, perfect. That was exactly what I was thinking right there. Yes, he uses paper battle maps, and it should be white. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I don't go high tech or anything. I'm minimalist, partly by necessity and partly by design. Partly by necessity because I just don't have room for all the stuff. I mean, most of my role playing stuff is in my son's room.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because that was the spare room, and then he moved out from being in the same room with his little sister, so that stuff just stayed on the shelves.
And that's where it lives. It's its home now.
That's his home now. Yeah, I would drag him to gaming, but I think he's got enough to do with his.
Right. Yeah, trying to figure that one out. That's a little beyond me. I'll be the war gamer in that scenario and not the painter.
Yeah, come Halloween, get one of those. I'll even 3D print it up for you, Kyle, if you want. Get a Hellraiser box, the La Marchand box, and give it to the boy and say, "I want you to solve this."
Well, that brings the other stuff that I brought along. Like me, the puzzles in dungeons, I hate them. I absolutely hate them because I'm not good at puzzles. But my wife likes them, and I got her this puzzle.
Ooh.
Which she hated because it's insanely difficult. It's made by this guy Hanayama, right? And you could totally tell he's Japanese because I came up with the idea of this puzzle when I was 19 years old. It just came to me. It just came to me during a stroll home in the snow. It's truly a creation of my youth. Only a Japanese guy would write like that.
Right.
Unfortunately, saying anything about its construction would give away how to solve it. I certainly can't disappoint the fans that have come to expect frustratingly difficult puzzles from me. Besides, the fans that refuse to accept any kind of hint are those who make me the happiest.
Probably the most money.
Yeah. So this
Wow.
so there's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 levels of difficulty. This is 6 stars.
Oh wow.
All right. So this little thing, I might just do the camera setup again. So the camera setup to look at the minis is a tricky little one. I have to open a drawer of my desk and then
Put the camera in the drawer.
yes,
Yeah.
this is high tech here.
I have one of those ring puzzles where it's like 2 rings and they've got grooves in them. You got to move them around. I still haven't figured it out.
Ah, well, yeah. This caused much consternation at our place. All right. So this thing, all right, north, south, east, west.
All right.
And when you look at it, it's the same on the other side. However, you can look and you can see that essentially you've got 2 kind of U-shaped with a very blunted U. You've got 2 kind of so there's that goes across there, and then that's interlocked. So it's kind of like having your fingers interlocked like that.
Right. Okay.
You know, like, so how the hell do we pull this, whatever? Anyway, so we tried for about a week, and then we looked on YouTube. A guy had solved it. I was going to falsely claim to have done it, but no, we're honest here. Spin it.
Oh, the centripetal force pulls it apart.
Yeah, comes
Whoa.
apart then. It has these if it'll focus, this damn thing will focus.
No, I can see it. There you go.
Yeah.
It has these tiny little screws. There's these tiny little screws in it, and as you spin it out like that, those screws will somehow come out and pull apart. And then you've got to try to put it back together. And I think it was the same. I haven't put it back together yet.
That's pretty mesmerizing. I'm not gonna lie.
Now,
Wow.
Kyle, bring a mini over next to the pieces or the whole thing, because yeah, dude, when you start doing face-to-face game nights, you stick that down. How do we get through this door? Just set that down and cross your arms and say,
Oh yeah. Yeah. That would be the best puzzle. Yeah. You got to figure out how to open the door.
It's this big iron shod door. And yeah, you get this and you can open it. This is the gateway to... And yeah, so while they're doing that, I can go off and get some McDonald's or something like that, come back half an hour later, and they will have left the game. And
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
One thing I'd like to point out about those models too is they're actually really small. The scale that I work at is usually like 28 millimeter, little like sometimes even a little larger. They were really small. That was a really challenging paint at those small scales to try and like really grab some detail onto.
I was actually
a challenge.
and let me see, that scale creep is a real thing. Scale creep is a very real thing in miniatures. So this figure here, for example, I'll pop this one up on screen real quick. Let me see if I can pick this up here. Let's see. Do we want?
What's it got in its pockets? This wave of mutilation.
Wow. So this mini, which the camera will not focus on because of my pink skin.
I can see it.
Okay, so you can kind of get an idea from my fingertips there about how big he is. That's a human.
Wow. All right.
That's a human fighter at what Reaper calls heroic 28 millimeter scale. Now,
Right.
this, let me see if I can find one. Oh, here we go. Yeah, no, this is perfect. Ignore his pointy hat. This is a human at 28 millimeter from Ralpartha from about 50 years ago. So
There's definitely a difference there.
there has
By
been
at least 3 fingernails. Well, by at least 1 fingernail.
yeah,
that I
there
can tell.
there has been an absolute scale explosion. Now, I'm not a grognard, okay? I mean, I call myself one, but I'm not one of those guys who's like, I'm going to say, you painted the buttons on your ACW, Grant's regiment at Bull Run. You painted those with bronze. They're supposed to be brass. I'd really like you to do the gentlemanly thing and forfeit the game since you did it wrong. I'm not one of those guys.
Right, yeah.
But you will meet them. You will meet guys like that. So I'm not afraid of someone coming in and grabbing a mini. And, one guy grabs the first one. He's like, oh, this looks badass. This is my fighter. And another guy grabs the second one. He says, oh, this looks badass. This is my fighter. And they stand side by side. And, one guy looks like my height. And the other one looks like, next to him looks like Shaquille O'Neal in terms of height. I'm not going to flip out over that, but there has absolutely been a scale explosion. But what's interesting is if you take a look at, for example, Dark Sword and Otherworld minis, and I have to say, and this surprises me, WizKids are actually kind of taking a step back to true 28 millimeter, not heroic 28 millimeter, because heroic 28 millimeter is actually 32 to 35 millimeter. And
it's like an average person then going to like Yao Ming status.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really is.
And then back down again.
Like I've got a gnome here. This is a heritage gnome. And this guy is, well, I mean, he's about the size of what you would think a gnome would be. Come on. There we go. And that's whoever painted him up. God bless you. You did an absolutely lovely job.
Wow. So, did you pluck a hair from your nose and turn it into a paintbrush for that thing? Wow.
I don't know who painted him, but see if I can get a better look at his front side there.
That's great. Yeah, whoever painted him had some determination. I would be probably whacking my head against the table trying to get that thing, the level of detail you'd want out of it. Wow.
Now, you go from that to... now, you think of gnomes and dwarves as being kind of in the same neighborhood as far as size, right? And I picked up the wrong one. I've got to try to work here. Let me see. I think a better comparison, if I can find that human fighter again.
Bill, I gotta say, I drool every time your hand goes next to that massive stockpile of minis. I just, yeah.
So
I get a little mini envy going on over here.
So this is a dwarf.
Okay.
That is a dwarf from some modern war game that was kind of trying to fill the Warhammer fantasy hole.
Sure. All right.
This is a human from Ralpartha, and she's about the same size.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely some creep.
Yeah, that's more of a running jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A pole vaulter made that many. That's what happened there.
Yeah. So again, I'm not a scale grognard. If somebody is like, yeah, this is my dwarf, and somebody else is like, oh, well, this is my female human ranger, and they stand side by side on the table, the ghost of Gary Gygax is not going to rise up behind me and demand that I stop using mixed scales. It doesn't matter.
Right.
They're little dolls. They're little dolls. We play with little dolls, guys.
you know, I think now I need to go find a group, because I think the first step is what is the first step is recognizing it, right? Or you know, proclaiming it. I think I need a minis group for
The
that.
first step is admitting you have a problem.
Yeah, admitting I have a problem. Yes, yeah, I definitely have. I definitely have a problem. Too many minis,
Yes.
and I play with little dolls. Wow,
I have
who would have
Dwarven
thought?
on the table in front of me. I play with little dolls and I play with doll houses.
Right.
So don't kid yourself about our hobby is super mature. No, it's not.
Be deep and meaningful. It's never good to take yourself seriously. I had a Facebook memory come up today that reminded me not to take myself seriously. It's from July 2020, and it said, "After a morning of books and music, I took the children to the park for physical education. On the way back, they stopped to talk to an old man's little dog. While I talked to the children, the dog pissed on my leg. And thus begins the first day of homeschooling under the second of many lockdowns." I was just standing there, and this one of those little ones, like an old man's dog, right? Just a little fluffy
Ankle
little
biter,
thing.
right? The ankle biter.
Yeah, little fluffy, cute little thing, waves his fluffy little white tail called Archie, and he just comes up and pisses on my leg. And of course, my children still remember that and remind me of it occasionally.
Oh, you'll never live that one down.
No, because every time we go to the park, we have to walk past that guy's house, and they always want to stop and say, "Hello, Archie," and they go, "Archie, stay away from Papa. He doesn't like you."
Oh. Good memories, though. Good memories.
Yes, so
I love it.
It's not good to take yourself seriously.
Oh yeah.
Or anything like that.
Definitely not. I mean, and you know, my fellow grognards out there, and look, I love you one and all. You know, I don't care what edition of D&D you play. Original white
Nonsense. First edition is the one to play. If you play anything else, you're a heretic and you should be burned.
You know, just the white box, any of the flavors of basic D&D, or even if you got a wood grain set you're still playing with for some reason, you maniac, and I only say that because of its relative rarity and value as an antique. Hardback AD&D second reprints, 3.5, third edition, fifth edition, all editions of D&D are good.
Did I really just hear you say that, Bill? Like,
all right, that's it, Bill.
Hit the time out,
You're not
my
going to
guy.
see me next week.
Right?
Come on,
Yeah. Are you
all
okay? Are
editions
you going through a little stint of mania over here? Like,
But
do you know
camera,
where you
nope.
live? Do you have it on the inside of your?
You really do need an in-person game group.
your
All
Jack-
this time online is detaching you from reality.
but I'll tell you something.
All editions are good.
I'll say this though. I'll say this to my fellow grognards who argue that no, D&D is a serious affair and so on and etc. Gary literally told you that if your party finds Heward's mystical organ, to make the person who's investigating it sit down at the piano and play Fly Me to the Moon or that old black magic. Don't come to me and say that Dungeons and Dragons is some gritty, hyper-realistic fantasy where, you know, your characters worship Wotan and that bronze spear isn't accurate and there was no such thing as studded leather. Don't. Because that same goddamn book that you guys claim to have memorized Appendix N out of has a mech, the apparatus of Qualish, a supercomputer, the machine of Lum the Mad, the aforementioned instructions to a player to sit down and play the piano if they want their magic spell to work. So don't come to me and act like Dungeons and Dragons, older editions are some super serial fantasies and you have to, no, your miniature. I have Grenadier miniatures from 1977 and they are the proper scale and your Reaper mini towers over them like a giant. That's not accurate. I mean, in starting a session of D&D with Gary on his front porch, yes, I am going to do this. I'm going to say, one time I was playing D&D with Gary. And he said, before he began, Gary was a great raconteur, he said, now, I just want everyone to remember, this is a very serious role-playing game now. We're all being extremely serious. This is high drama. You know, we all had a chuckle because it was the same thing. It was the same thing.
Right.
But that's just it. I don't care where you come from in the hobby. Do it and have fun, but don't mistake this for being something so serious that it matters how big or how small your miniature is, or whether you've got Dwarven Forge and proper scales.
It's not the size of the mini; it's how you play it.
It's how you roll.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. That will bring the party the most pleasure. Is not your mini, but how you play it.
Who brought snacks? Kyle, who brought snacks?
I did.
Because
I always do.
the order of importance is people. That Kyle brought snacks. I've got some jalapeno chips sitting over on my desk over there.
I'm sadly out of beer. That was about 30 minutes ago.
I saw you having a poll there, but people, snacks, setting, system.
Yeah, there you go. That's the magic
That
equation
was-
right there.
Yeah,
That
that's the problem when someone doesn't have a game group and starts posting on Dragon's Foot or something, that they start to think that the system is the most important thing.
Mm.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
And-
But I mean, that still doesn't mean other editions of D&D are worthy. I don't know where he comes up with that nonsense.
Right. Painters have the same culture, man. I'm more of a painter than I am a gamer. I love to play the games and the minis that I paint. You know, that's because I like the minis too. But you know, it's the same kind of culture. You'll find the neckbeards of the group out there that are for whatever escapism they're out there hammering on the mechanics of the rules and whatever, and you're just there playing a pickup game and drinking Mountain Dew or whatever, Pepsi, Coke, whatever you have on you. You know, there's painters out there that are like, oh no, you need to use Tamiya paint if you want the absolute best result, or you need to use the Kolinsky sable brushes, or you better
should
have
just come back
a
at them and say-
$500 airbrush.
No, you
Before
should
you
just
even
come back
start.
at them and say, look, unless you're making your own paint, you need to be out there harvesting that shellfish to make your own purple. You need to be out there mining the chromium to make that red. Otherwise, we just don't want to hear from you, man, unless you're making your own paints from scratch. If it was good enough for Michelangelo, it should be good enough for you when you're painting your Kenda. It's
right. I just find it funny, and to be honest, anybody that's out, listen to this after the fact, or stumbling across it, like, don't be afraid of those people. Like, you're living your life, they're living theirs. Like, don't let it bar you from enjoying something. Like, I know it's uncomfortable to meet those people sometimes, but there's one bad apple in every basket. Like, just don't eat that apple, have the rest, because this hobby, role playing, painting minis, playing with minis at the table, or whatever have you, just move past it. Like, I was honestly, when I first started getting into that, family shop, gaming store kind of style of hobby, I ran into some of those folks, and it was intimidating. It's for somebody new coming in there, it's intimidating. So don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Just go away, move away from them. Find the real good guys in those groups and make some friendships. And you'll never regret it. You'll never regret it.
Yeah. And, something else I tell people on paint minis, I think you'll back me up on this, is one of the best pieces of advice I give anybody who asks, like, oh, I want to get started painting and I'm going to look online. Do not look at Cool Mini or not.
No, never. No, those, no.
You will take your half-finished minis and your paints and throw them in the trash.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
There's two things that people should know about
what's
Cool
like
Minis or Not.
a mini version of HODLNot.com or what?
Yeah,
Kind of basic. Yeah. Yep. You've got it.
Oh,
Cool
or,
Mini-
or
Cool
the
Mini or
roast
Not.
me subreddit where you just like, okay, so
It's like
you're
up or
inviting people
up or
to
down.
humiliate you.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool Mini or Not. There's two things you should know about Come On. Cool Mini or Not. The people who paint on Cool Mini or Not and get 9 and 10 community ratings over thousands of votes, like average 9.9, 9.7 or whatever, which the people who give some of the minis I've seen on Cool Mini or Not, like a 9 instead of a 10, I'm like, what is a 10 to you people?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Was
But
it painted by God?
yeah. First of all, the people who painted those minis, I can almost guarantee you with 100% accuracy, are not gamers.
Mm-hmm.
They are painters.
Yep.
That is all they do. Hang on a second, guys. My phone is ringing. I gotta shut it off.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. Don't even look at that site. And the funny thing is like paint cool mini or cool minis or not is basically like the going to a concert, right? You go to a concert to listen to your favorite artist, and what they don't show you is the hours and like hundreds or more hours that they have spent doing this over and over and over again to achieve those results. They don't show you the practice. Like when you go and watch a performer, the tickets that you're paying for the practice, not the performance. The performance
And
is
all
on
the
house.
setup. All
Well,
the setup.
there's
the amount of time to set all their gear up, and all the speakers and get the audio right and all the rest. We got a guy comes here. He used to be an audio engineer, and he described it. It's just a phenomenal amount of work just for a regular band to get up there and sound decent. Like if they want to get up there and sound crap, that's not much work. But if they want to get up there and sound decent, so you got to respect the amount of work that goes into it.
Oh, sure. Well, for a whole show, there's plenty that comes in, but I mean, just on the artist aspect of it, though, they're you're not necessarily paying for that one show. You're paying for the years of blood, sweat, and tears they poured into making their music quality and getting to that point. So when you see those people, in your head, you're like, man, that is the silver lining that I want to be at, but I want to be at it right now. And what they don't tell you is that it took them 10,000 hours and 800,000 minis to get there.
There's an old joke from my professional area where that somebody comes up and asks a coach for a program to achieve whatever, and the coach sits down and 15 minutes later gives them a piece of paper and says, "Here you go, that'll be $150." And the person says, "But you wrote that in 15 minutes. How could it be $150?" And he said, "Yeah, but it took me 15 years to write it in 15 minutes."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to be honest, like I think one thing that I've learned through painting and just the interaction with these various hobbies between tabletop and painting and whatnot is you were referring to this earlier. That human connection of that, and you'll find those things out on your journey. You who are just stumbling across this from the far-flung future, you'll see that in a lot of people, that they put a lot of time and effort into this to make it a quality thing, to make it something that people want to gravitate towards. And what a beautiful thing it is. I can't say it enough. What a beautiful thing it is.
Well, thank you very much. And I mean, I have said this before, and Kyle tends to be kind of self-depreciating about, oh, well, my shows have terrible numbers, but Kyle is...
It's true. It's consistently the worst rating stream of the week. I think it's got to be me, because you're the constant, and I'm the variable. So
be that as it may, Kyle strength coached me through this show kind of dragging along, and it being, live from Bill's missile silo all the way up to, I have a wide angle lens now. So, from there to there, and Kyle helps make this a good quality product, whether he's on the show or not. But I remember
you will make some good friends in gaming, and
Yeah.
a lot of nice acquaintances too. I had a couple of guys in my game group years ago. One was this guy Theo, and one day he, we'd been gaming in the living room or something, and then one day he came and saw my garage with all the gear in it, and he said, "Kyle, you have to coach me. You have to train me. I need to get strong." And I said, "You're not going to stop gaming, are you?" like priorities, man.
Right.
So, but he didn't stop gaming, and he came and lifted. And then he made another one of the players, Yanni, made him join in as well. And I was like, yeah, as long as he's not going to stop gaming, I mean, it's nice to have money and all, but hey, gaming, come on.
Right. So say Bill, can I hijack your stream for a minute and do a couple plugs?
Oh yeah. Plug away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to let everybody know on the 15th, I'll be doing kind of a mobile stream. I'll be up in northern Minnesota visiting some parents, but I'm hosting a giveaway for a copy of Warhammer Underworlds. It's kind of its own boxed game, so you can pick it up and play it right off the bat. But there's also some minis in there. If you want to paint them, you can get some supplies, paint them up. But that's kind of where I got my start at. So I wanted to give a little something back to the community and the people that have been supporting me. And the Dungeon Crew has been quite great friends of ours. And so I want to make sure that everybody knows, please toss your hat into the ring. I'm going to throw all the names in the chat during the stream in a spinny wheel. And at the end, we're going to pick one. I'll give you an email address or something, and you can email me. I'll send it out to you. So please come in, join. All you got to do is subscribe and put your name in the chat when I let you know, and then at the end we'll do the drawing. So for all that love and support, get something back for it, or at least a chance to. I'm not made of money. I can't give out 20 copies of these, but I can give out one. Yeah. And we have a website, paintminislive.com. I've been kind of working on it over the course of a couple of weeks now. And if you want to come and take a look at that, give me some feedback on it, I'd be happy. You can contact the show there. And myself, Sarah, or my other guest, Jack, might get back to you. And just stop by whenever you feel like it. If you're looking for new painting techniques or just, looking to talk games, come in and join us. And that's about all I have for plugs, but thanks again for all the support from the Dungeon Crew here. Has been a huge positive force in the helping to start this up is the hardest thing, starting up your own giving back to society sometime and getting seen is really hard to do. So thank you very much to the Dungeon Crew. All of you guys have been just a blessing in disguise over here at Paint Minis Live.
Namaste, man. Not a problem. So Kyle, are you back next Wednesday? Do I have my co-host back? Good.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so next week we're going to bring you guys. Kyle and I are huge fans of Random. We're Kyleotic good, I guess you might say. But anyway, or maybe you won't because you don't have an awful sense of humor. But we'll be back next week, and I think Kyle and I are going to take you guys down the street of what do you do when 1 in 4 swords can have its own personality. We're gonna walk you through that, and when you need something nasty from the underworld, there's of course there's something in the Dungeon Master's Guide to help you out with that. So we're gonna demons, swords, and possibly even demons with swords. More random goodness from the Dungeon Master's Guide. So that's what we'll be doing next week. I of course will be back tomorrow night. It's open Q&A Thursday. I'll probably drink a lot and make even worse jokes than I usually do. Friday night we're going to be back with a little bit of preamble ramble, but yes, we're going to play some Gamma World. Dude, I'm not even gonna talk about the Gamma World numbers. Come and watch if you want to. You guys know the jam. So thank you to Bill for being here. Thank you always to my co-host Kyle. Thank you to you guys out there in the audience. You guys sort of make it all worth it. And as I've said before, I love it that everybody watches. But if there was just one of you, I'd still do it, because that's kind of how I do my thing. So until then, of course, whether it's just the stat in the monster manual, or whether it is in fact the miniature itself, I'm gonna have to ask you guys, keep your eyes open. And have you seen my owl bear?
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.